What if I told you that two of America's most notorious outlaws were once ordinary boys with common lives? Our story begins in a time of cowboys in the Wild West. In the heart of Utah, in the year 1866, a baby boy named Robert Leroy Parker opened his eyes to the world. His parents, humble ranchers, could never have predicted that their son would one day be known as the infamous Butch Cassidy. As a youngster, Robert was a hard worker, helping his parents on the ranch. His life was simple, uneventful, and as ordinary as it gets. However, a chance encounter with a cattle rustler named Mike Cassidy would sow the seeds of his future, a life of crime and infamy. Inspired by the rustler's tales of adventure and rebellion, young Robert began to see a different path for himself. A path that led him away from the ordinary and towards the extraordinary, albeit on the wrong side of the law. A few years later, in 1867, in the far-off state of Pennsylvania, another baby boy was born. His name was Harry Alonzo Longabaugh, who would later earn the nickname the Sundance Kid. Unlike Robert, Harry was born into a life of poverty, which pushed him toward petty crimes at a young age. His first major crime was horse theft, an offense that landed him an 18-month stint in jail. This experience hardened Harry, and he decided to head west, where he believed he could make his fortune as an outlaw. These two boys, born into vastly different circumstances, found common ground in their desire for adventure and a life free from societal constraints. They were drawn to the lawless West, where their ordinary lives transformed into those of extraordinary outlaws. They were no longer Robert Leroy Parker and Harry Alonzo Longabaugh. They had become Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Their transformation from ordinary boys to infamous outlaws was only the beginning of their journey. Ever heard of the Wild Bunch? No, not the movie, the real-life outlaw gang. In the late 19th century, a group of outlaws rose to prominence in the American West. They were known as the Wild Bunch, and their activities ranged from cattle rustling to bank and train robberies. This band of rogues was notorious, feared, and in some circles, even admired. But what made the Wild Bunch truly legendary was the inclusion of two particular outlaws, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Butch Cassidy, born as Robert Leroy Parker, and the Sundance Kid, whose real name was Harry Alonzo Longabaugh, weren't just members of the Wild Bunch, they were its leaders. Both men were notorious in their own right before joining the Wild Bunch, but together, they took the gang's criminal activities to new heights. Their leadership marked a golden age for the Wild Bunch, as they conducted some of the most audacious heists of the era. One of the most notable was the robbery of the Union Pacific Overland Flyer in 1899. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, along with several other members of the Wild Bunch, stopped the train in the middle of the Wyoming wilderness, blew open the express car with dynamite, and made off with over $50,000. It was bold, daring, and incredibly successful. But this was just one of many heists they orchestrated. Each one was meticulously planned and executed, leaving law enforcement frustrated and often outwitted. Their exploits were so notorious that their names became synonymous with the Wild Bunch, overshadowing the rest of the gang. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid didn't just join the Wild Bunch, they led it, marking their place in the annals of American outlaw history. Their names may be wrapped in myth and legend, but their actions were all too real, leaving a trail of robberies, escapes, and daring exploits that continue to captivate us to this day. What do you do when you're a notorious outlaw and the law is closing in? You run. And that's exactly what Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid did. With their faces plastered on wanted posters across the country, they knew it was time to make a swift exit. The Wild West was no longer a safe haven for these notorious outlaws. So they set their sights on a new frontier, a place where their names were unknown, and their pasts could be left behind. They turned their gaze south, towards the promise of anonymity in South America. Their journey was far from a simple vacation. Imagine two of America's most wanted criminals, traversing thousands of miles, crossing borders, and evading the law, all while trying to keep a low profile. Their destination? Argentina, a land vast and wild, yet unfamiliar and foreign, a place where they could start anew. But old habits die hard, and the pair couldn't resist the allure of their criminal ways. In Argentina, they took up cattle rustling, a far cry from their bank-robbing days, but a crime nonetheless. They established a ranch, using it as a base for their operations. Yet, even in this far-flung corner of the world, their reputation began to catch up with them. The law was different here, but it was still the law. And the long arm of justice has a way of stretching across continents. word began to spread of the American outlaws, their audacious exploits sparking whispers in every town. And although they'd managed to escape the confines of the Wild West, they soon found that their past was not as easily outrun. Despite the vast distance, despite the change of scenery, despite their best efforts to start afresh, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid found themselves right back where they started, on the wrong side of the law. Despite being thousands of miles from home, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid continued their life of crime. How did it all end for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, in a blaze of gunfire? Our narrative now takes us to the rugged, wild terrain of Bolivia. The two outlaws, Robert Leroy Parker, known as Butch Cassidy, and Harry Alonzo Longabaugh, the Sundance Kid, had fled their homeland, the United States, seeking refuge and anonymity in this South American country. In Bolivia, they continued their life of crime, robbing banks and living on the run. However, their luck was running thin. The pair, renowned for their quick wits and quicker guns, were about to face their final standoff. The date was November 6th, in the year of 1908. The location was San Vicente, a small mining town nestled in the Bolivian Andes. An unfortunate game of poker led to the discovery of their true identities. A local resident, suspicious of the pair's fluency in English and their extravagant spending, alerted the Bolivian authorities. As the dawn broke the next morning, the Bolivian cavalry surrounded the house where they were staying. The calm silence of the morning was shattered by the sound of gunfire, a sound that echoed through the tranquil mountains. The siege lasted for hours, with Cassidy and Longabaugh stubborn and defiant to the end, refusing to surrender. When the dust finally settled and the gunfire ceased, the Bolivian authorities cautiously entered the house. Inside, they found two bodies. The outlaws, it seemed, had met their end in a hail of bullets, just as their legend predicted. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the infamous outlaws of the Wild West, had finally met their match in the Bolivian wilderness. Their reign of terror had come to a climactic end. However, despite the evidence, rumors persisted that they had somehow survived and escaped, adding another layer of mystery to their already legendary status. In the end, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid went out not with a whimper but a bang. Despite their outlaw status, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid left an indelible mark on American culture. Their audacious exploits and daring escapades have been immortalized in countless ways, becoming an integral part of our popular culture. Their legacy is not confined to the pages of history books, but has seeped into the realm of entertainment and arts, inspiring a plethora of creative works. The most notable of these is the 1969 film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford. This cinematic masterpiece not only brought their story to life, but also resonated with audiences worldwide, turning the notorious outlaws into folk heroes. Their influence extends beyond the silver screen. Numerous books, from historical accounts to fictionalized narratives, have been written about their lives and deeds. These literary pieces, each with their unique perspective, have helped keep the legend of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid alive, feeding our curiosity and fascination with these historical figures. Their story also permeates the world of music. Songs have been composed, and ballads have been sung, echoing their rebellious spirit and adventurous nature. These tunes, often tinged with a touch of romanticism, immortalize the outlaws in a way that words alone could not. Even after more than a century, the lives of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid continue to captivate us. Their audacity and cunning, their spirit of rebellion against the establishment, and their unwavering friendship in the face of adversity all contribute to our enduring fascination. Their story is a testament to our collective fascination with outlaws and the Wild West, a fascination that seems unlikely to fade anytime soon. Their legacy is not just about their criminal endeavors, but also about the human spirit and the allure of freedom. It's about two men who chose to live life on their own terms regardless of the consequences. Their story remains a source of inspiration and intrigue, a piece of the rich tapestry that is American history. In the annals of American outlaws, few names are as legendary or as enduring as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.